My check 1 2. So it's no secret that I no longer collect for the PlayStation 4. However, I still have a small group of games that I've kept in my collection. This group of games are games that I kept because deep down, I really did believe that these were games that would ultimately wind up being a lot more expensive later on down the line. And because I still have a PlayStation 4 and, I still currently do believe I want to keep my PlayStation 4 collection, although that could change. I wanted to keep these games in my collection just so that I would not have to pay the higher prices that they might demand in the future. And so this video today is going to be looking at 5 games that are approaching GRAIL status on the PlayStation 4. A lot of people think when they think about a GRAIL on the PlayStation 4, one of the first games that comes to their mind is a game like Godzilla. But there are other games that are out on the PlayStation 4 that are entering that upper echelon of, I guess, GRAIL status, not just because of their gameplay, but also because of the price tag associated with the game. So in this video, I'm going to show you 5 games that are not approaching GRAIL status yet, but I think could have the potential to start approaching GRAIL status, maybe once the PlayStation 4 is completely off of shelves, or once the PlayStation 4 kind of gets to the place where the PlayStation 3 is now. These games could get there. And then I want to talk about another 5 games that are actually approaching GRAIL status. Like these games are at the doorstep of being considered GRAILs. So let's start off with the first 5 that aren't quite there yet, but I think could have the potential to get there. Now, these are games that up until, maybe about a year ago, these were games that were easily accessible at a place like GameStop. You could have easily gotten these games for $29.99 or under. And these are games that, you could have even have taken advantage of with like the buy two, get one. Now, these days, these games that I'm about to show you here are really scarce. They're not on the shelves at GameStop as much as they used to be. They have gotten pretty scarce and they're hard to find. So if you do see them, and you are a collector for the PlayStation 4, these are games that you may want to look into. I'm not going to tell you to get them, but they may be worth a look. The first game we're going to start with is Gravity Rush 2. Now, Gravity Rush 2 is not approaching GRAIL status yet. This is still just about a $50 game. However, just a year or two ago, this was about a $25 to $30 game. So just in the last year, this game has gone up about 20 bucks. I think there was a point where I think I used to see it for more than 50, but it's kind of like fluctuating. The PlayStation 4 is in a bit of a weird spot right now, so I think there's going to be a lot of fluctuation with the pricing of PlayStation 4 games. However, Gravity Rush, if you enjoyed the original Gravity Rush, which I did, it's kind of like an adventure, like action adventure game with some platforming, some really interesting mechanics. And I think one of the things I love the most about the Gravity Rush series is the graphics, that whole cel shaded graphical art style. I'm a sucker for that. I believe that graphical art style is timeless. So I'm a fan of it. If you like, like I said, if you like the original, you'll definitely like this one. The interesting thing about Gravity Rush is that you can only play Gravity Rush 2 on the PlayStation 4. There's no PS Vita version. I mean, you could probably emulate it or download it maybe to some other device. I'm not gonna say the only way you could play it, but this physical game only came out on the PlayStation 4. So this is actually an exclusive, which I think also kind of gives it a little bit more potential for it to kind of jump up in price. But like I said, this might be one worth looking at. Check it out. Next up is the Prototype Biohazard Bundle. So many of you might be familiar with the Prototype games. These are like open world action adventure, like hack and slash style games that have like this whole free roam element to them that I really actually enjoy. I love the expansiveness of these games, and individually, these are really cheap games that came out on the PlayStation 3 and the 360. So they're really not super expensive, but on the PlayStation 4, this price does jump up a bit. This game jumps up to the $50-$60 range when you add these 2 games in together. Also, I believe this version of the game has all of the DLC as well. So all the DLC and 2 complete games are on this disc, which I think is part of the reason why the price tag on this one is a bit higher. Like I said, this is like a $50 to $60 game at this point. And while it's not approaching GRAIL status yet, and it has been a pretty common game, again, this is another one that you could easily have found on GameStop shelves. You might still be able to find this game on GameStop shelves, but this is one that you may want to look into as well if you're into that type of gameplay style. Like I said, free roaming, action adventure, a lot of NPCs, a lot of terrain to cover. I think this might be one that you might be into. Next up, you have Back to the Future, the game. Now, I don't know why this game went up in price. This game actually has come back down in price. There was a point where this game was over $100. For what reason, I don't know. This game was released on the PlayStation 3. I believe it was also released on the on the 360, if I'm not mistaken. Now, I know sometimes when they do these like PlayStation 4 remakes, they tend to add all the DLC on here. I'm not sure if that's the case with this one. When I picked this one up, I got it as part of a buy two get one. As you can see, it was $29.99 when I got it. I'm not sure what GameStop has this for now, but this is still like a $60 to $70 game is what I do see this game going for. Again, I played this game like for all but 5 minutes. 5 minutes is what I gave this game. I don't know, how fun it is, to be honest with you. But this, for whatever reason, is just one of those games that seems to like teeter between like 170. Like it's in that $70 to $100 range. I don't know where this could go in the future. In my opinion, it's not quite at the approaching Grail status. Just because there's a lot of ways to play this game. It was easily accessible. You probably can still find this on GameStop shelves to this day, but this is another one that you may want to keep your eye out for. Next up, we have Berserk and the Band of the Hawk. I've talked about this game a lot. This is part of the Berserk series. There is a Berserk game that came out on the Dreamcast. This is pretty much like a hack and slasher style game, like an open world hack and slash style game based on an anime. I think this game is sick, to be honest with you. I think this is a really cool game. If you're into hack and slashers, if you're a fan of Koei Tecmo like I am, you will like this game. I want to say 2 to 3 years ago, I saw this game all the time. I would run into this game at almost every GameStop that I would go to. And then I think it was like discontinued or something. And then I just started seeing copies of this game disappear. And of course, with that, the price of the game also rose. So at one point, this was around the $60 to $70 range. I don't know if that's where this is still at. It might have come down a little bit, but this is one that, like I've said with the others, if you see this, you may want to grab it, especially if you can get it as part of a buy two get one. Berserk is actually a really cool game. So if you're into hack and slashers, this is one that I would look out for, just because, like I said, when the sun completely sets on the PlayStation 4, it'll be games like this that I think collectors will be looking for on this console. Because again, I think there might be a Vita version of this game, but I think that might only be there might have only been a Japanese physical release for this game on the Vita. I'm not sure if there was an English release. It might have been. If you guys know, you can let me know down in the comments, or if there's any other way to play this game, you can let me know. But as far as I know, it's only available on the PlayStation 4. Okay, last of the not common games, but games that aren't quite yet approaching Grail status but have potential is Rez. I've talked about Rez before. I recently got the PlayStation 2 version of this game. And I'm a huge fan of Rez. This is essentially a shoot 'em up, where you kind of, as you get your power-ups, you start to take on more of this like humanoid form. I think conceptually, Rez is so unique. I think it's a really cool game, and it's definitely one worth playing. I think the PlayStation 4 version, though, definitely kicks it up a notch with the VR option. Being able to play a game like Rez with VR is out of this world. And so I think, maybe the technology won't be as cool in the future as we improve, things with VR and stuff like that. I've heard a lot of people talk about motion sickness, but this is definitely one that I could actually see just being really cool to play and fun to play in the future. So Rez and it's one that you don't see on the shelves as much. I used to see this game a lot. You don't see it on shelves, and this one has actually climbed up in price. This one is in the 70s, 80s. So if you see a copy of Rez, you may want to snag it. All right, now for the 5 games that are really, truly approaching Grail status. Number 1, Blasphemous. And you're going to notice a common trend with all these games. But first up, we have Blasphemous. Now, Blasphemous was, I believe, originally a limited run release. It was one of Limited Run's earliest releases physically on the Switch and the PlayStation 4. However, later on down the line, Team 17 decided to do a re-release of the game, a reprint of the game, and that reprint of the game included all of the DLC on the disc. Blasphemous is my favorite Switch game. It's one of my favorite side scrollers, if not my favorite side scrolling hack and slash Metroidvania. I mean, the game just does so many things well. Sorry, it's been a long day, so I had to yawn there. But so many things get done are done well in this game. I think you will appreciate this game for what it is. So definitely take a look at Blasphemous. I think this is one that you would thoroughly enjoy. I could talk about this game all day, but for the sake of this video, Blasphemous, right, like for a sealed copy like this, it's gonna be a little over $100 for Blasphemous. So to me, that's approaching GRAIL status. You know, once you're like in the $100 zone, $100 range, that's a significant amount for a game. So I would say Blasphemous is definitely approaching GRAIL status. Next up, Battle Garega. Now, Battle Garega, if you were to try to get this game on its original format, which would have been on the Sega Saturn, the original Sega Saturn version of Battle Garega, I remember during the pandemic, it had to climb to over $400. A copy of Battle Garega on the Sega Saturn might be somewhere between 200 and $300, give or take. But this is a very expensive shoot 'em up, and so it made its way to the PlayStation 4 via M2. Some of the best to do it when it comes to porting some of those shoot 'em ups, those old '90s shoot 'em ups. They do a really good job with that. Battle Garega, I mean, even complete in box, not even sealed, is still approaching that $100 mark. Quite the expensive game, but it is a fun game, and the music is top tier, top notch music. Definitely recommend it. Battle Garega is definitely approaching GRAIL status. Here's one that I think is like, I think this might be a GRAIL at this point, and this is Castlevania Requiem. So this is the Castlevania collection. Now we've seen a ton of different Castlevania collections over the past couple years. Between the Castlevania collection with all of the older Castlevania games from like the NES and Super NES era. You've gotten the Dominus collection. You've got the collection with all of the Game Boy Advance games, the collection with all of the Nintendo DS games. There's just been so many different collections of Castlevania. I think what makes this one different is that this is probably one of the first times that we saw a physical re-release of, or a physical version of Symphony of the Night and Rondo of Blood on one disc. And a lot of people will argue that Castlevania Symphony of the Night is the definitive Castlevania as far as 2D side-scrolling Castlevania games go, because obviously you have the Lords of Shadow series and things like that. You also have like the Lament of Innocence and Curse of Darkness, which came out on the PlayStation 2. And then obviously you have the N64 versions, which I don't really know how many people really regard the N64 versions of those games in terms of like 3D Castlevania games. But when it comes to these 2D side scrollers, I think a lot of people esteem Symphony of the Night as the premier Castlevania. I feel like a lot of the other 2D side scrolling Castlevania games post Symphony of the Night actually modeled that Symphony of the Night formula, and that goes for all the GBA games as well as the DS games. So if you can get your hands on this, it's definitely cool, because not a lot of people want to go back to the original PlayStation to play Symphony of the Night. So if you have Requiem, this is a great modern way to revisit basically a genre-defining game. Symphony of the Night is a genre-defining game. It is one half of the Metroidvania genre. So I definitely see why this one is. I think this one is at GRAIL status now, because I've seen this consistently for over $100. So if you do see a copy of Castlevania Requiem, I would say to grab it. Next up, this is one that not a lot of people talk about, but Stranger Things 3, the game. So first of all, I'm a huge fan of the Stranger Things show. It's Halloween. I think another installment of this series is coming back. I'm really excited to see. I think this is like the finale, so I'm really excited to see how that ends, if it hasn't come out already. So I'm really excited about that. But this is a really cool isometric, I think, beat 'em up style game. I never opened this. I'm going to keep my copy sealed. I've actually been looking for a Switch copy that I could like get and play. I may just download it and play it. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of the show. So that just makes the game more relevant to me. And I really just like, I just like what they've done here. Stranger Things 3 is one of the more expensive limited run releases. This copy for the PlayStation 4, I'm pretty sure goes for right around 100, maybe a little bit more. But the Switch version is like super expensive. I don't even know how much that goes for now. It might go for 150. It might go for 200. Who knows? But as far as the PlayStation 4 goes, Stranger Things 3 is definitely one that you would want to get your hands on, because it is, in my opinion, at the GRAIL status as far as PlayStation 4 goes. Um, Now, one of the things that you'll notice about Stranger Things, Castlevania Requiem, Battle Gorega, and Blasphemous, for the most part, is that they all, with the exception of Blasphemous, which got a reprint, these all have a very limited print run. So that's part of the reason why it adds to their value and adds to their Grail status. There are probably places where you could get reprints of these games and not have to spend, what the market is asking for these. But again, these are also very fun games, so keep that in mind. And then we're down to the last game, which is right around 100, maybe a little bit less. I've seen this game go between like the mid 90s to the low hundreds. And this is Flynn, Son of Crimson, a very colorful, bright, happy-go-lucky action platforming game. It's a very cool looking game. I picked it up just because I thought the sprite work looked amazing on this game. It kind of gave me Fox and Forest vibes. And so that's why I grabbed this one. This is a super rare game, which honestly, super rare games are even more limited than limited run and strictly limited games, because I think super rare might still be the only company that actually like really limits their like numbered games. So I can't remember if this was a numbered game. I'm not sure. You guys can let me know down in the comments below if this was part of their numbered series. But you guys can let me know. I think Flynn, it said number 3, so I don't know if this is number 3, because sometimes they'll release like the Switch version and then they'll release like the PS4 version like years later. So I'm not sure. You guys can let me know down in the comments, but I think Flynn is definitely one worth checking out if you're a fan of 2D sprite-based games. I think it is a interesting looking one. And that does it for this video. These are the games that I felt were worth keeping in my PlayStation 4 collection. I know we still have a lot of PlayStation 4 collectors out there. Let me know what you think about these games. Let me know if you have them in your collection and if you think they're worth picking up. And I'll catch you in the next video. It's the Y2K Collector. Take it easy.